Hello, Chris Patmore from WSP. I was just wondering, did you have any sort of liaison also with Thames Water? Did they get involved in the process?
We did, and we are. So Thames Water, Dave Harding is part of the advisory group. Sorry, it might not have been listed there. Should have been. But yeah, we've had various discussions with Dave, and we're currently working on a range of proposals, potentially with Thames Water support as well for expanding the project. But it is in a proposal stage at the minute. So, but yeah, they've been involved and very supportive.
Hi there, Glenn Westman from West Sussex. I'm just interested in the financial aspect. Was the LIFE funding part funded, or was it fully funded? And if you had to raise any funds yourself, what was the sort of financial benefits? How did you sell it to the authorities?
I'll do that one. The total kind of funding, the envelope for the project was 1.3 million. 50% of that came through the European Union, through the Life Plus scheme. Part of it is funded through Hammersmith and Fulham. And then there are a number of co-finances, including the GLA, some local funders, for example, Western Riverside Environment Fund, kind of a little cohort of funders really that are funding different aspects of it. And I think, you know, there's sort of a job to do at every stage in the delivery of that project and convincing funders to go for it. I think, you know, Europe are obviously really interested in this because it is doing something that we're not seeing being done really anywhere else in terms of really focusing on social housing landscapes and engaging residents in that process. You know, we had to kind of convince Hammersmith and Fulham that it was worth taking a punt and coming in at it with us, and as I think I said in my presentation, I think that they really felt that this approach kind of just dovetailed with the sorts of things they were trying to deliver at a borough-wide scale and wanted to be able to kind of facilitate much wider resident involvement and support for these kind of measures, and we are seeing that coming through with the programmes of planned investment that they have. I always think that sort of seeing this believing stuff works really, really well, and in preempting this particular project, we secured some funding from Natural England. I think it was in 2012, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Where we trialled a few of the ideas that we had at a smaller estate called Flora Gardens in Hammersmith and Fulham, and that really helped us to build kind of momentum with community groups who we knew would be taking part, but also, you know, taking other potential funders round to have a look at. So, you know, I think it's about how you message it for the different funders that are involved, and kind of that's different for every project you deliver and whoever it is you're pitching it at. But I think the project's been quite successful in attracting funding because it is, you know, it's just quite innovative in what it's trying to deliver, and particularly local funders like the Business Improvement District, even for example, have been keen to be seen to be supporting it.
Helen Springland of Wildlife Trust. Hi. You mentioned monitoring the different schemes. I just wonder if you could give us a bit more information about that, and what the data is being used for, and then who's analysing it, and then any advice you'd have for other projects about monitoring. You know, what's worth monitoring and how to go about it.
Yeah, I think we're learning. So the University of East London have been commissioned to undertake monitoring for us. So on the green roofs and some of the other features, they're doing ecology monitoring. They're also doing some monitoring of the flow of water into and out of the various features. So taking water from downpipes running off the green roofs and measuring the flow in various storm events. They aim to do that in a continuous monitoring way. We're not looking particularly at water quality in this project. Most of the water is coming off roofs and paving areas. There was a chance, and there is a chance, that we might introduce a water quality element if we were to take. We've got some measures which we're looking at taking highways runoff, so potential to advance that. And I think each time I have a conversation with different people working in this area, I get some interesting feedback about what is worth doing, how things need to progress. I'm not sure if I should I was talking on the phone yesterday to Steve Wilson about monitoring and how we might do it, how it might be done better in the future, how we might look at continuous water quality monitoring alongside continuous flow monitoring and see what the relationship is between those two things, rather than just doing continuous water flow monitoring, and then spot samples, which can obviously show huge variability. So trying to find ways of understanding better the relationship between those two things, and also potential of using modelling as well to predict the effects of that, I guess, for different return period events. So I'm certainly I'm learning as I go and having these conversations. And I've read various reports, monitoring reports from other SUD schemes around the place. But yeah, I think there's a reasonable way to go. The information will be available.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
All the information through the project will be available. There's been a few delays in getting things up and running. Some things to do with maintenance. I mean, we've had to work with the council to kind of get some of the guttering kind of sorted out and some blockages sorted out. So we're making sure that when we are monitoring it, we are actually monitoring the whole quantity of water that we think we're draining into the system. So we're learning lessons. And the other key thing for this project, we didn't mention, there's an implementation guide. So all the learning that we've kind of got from doing the project, all stages from the analysis work through the design, through working with residents, will be included within an implementation guide, which we hope won't be, will be kind of punchy and key learning points that we can kind of share with people.
Yeah.
Hi, Graham Fairhurst. I'm chair of the Sustain PSG. It relates a little bit to the previous question. In terms of European Union funding, normally that requires some quite hard outcomes or outputs. Did you actually have any in relation to placemaking? Obviously, there's plenty of good things happened here, but was there any requirement from the EU for measurable outcomes?
I don't think there's the requirements that they make in terms of the things they would like you to monitor. And I guess they have to make those standardised because they're working across all sorts of different projects around Europe, and they're a bit limited. So we actually included in this project a wide range of things that we said we would monitor or evaluate and give feedback on, from just numbers of things we did to quantities of things that benefit that we were getting. Maybe Nichola say a little bit more.
I think that you're absolutely right. European funders are very keen for you to be able to quantify the impact of the investment that they'll be making, and particularly for this Life Plus projects, it's about sort of some of the environmental indicators. And I think that probably when we were developing this project, we weren't as well informed as we are now in developing this new one about the kind of impacts that we could expect to see. But certainly that we're reporting to Europe on a whole raft of environmental indicators, as well as some of the more sort of socioeconomic outcomes of the project that they're also really very interested in. I think that the Green Team delivery model that we've used and the kind of focus on really supporting increased awareness and behaviour change among residents has been something that Europe have been very keen to support. And it's a kind of an interest in the project that they might not be seeing through other projects that are funded through the Life Plus programme, which many of them are very kind of technical, aren't they, in their output, and this is really about really kind of rooted in this placemaking agenda that we're talking about today.
The project can be either a pilot project or a demonstration project. So pilot would be if you had a new technology or some kind of system that was providing an environmental benefit, which may or may not be easier to quantify the environmental benefits. This is difficult. I was thinking about this last week. How do you, where you've got a situation where you want to undertake some survey analysis and feasibility work and understand which measures are best where, how do you quantify the environmental benefits from something that is, you've got a relatively good idea the types of things you want to do, but exactly what you're going to do is not been yet worked out. So I think it's trying to do the best you can to come up with reasonable estimates of the environmental improvements you want to get, but it's problematic, I think.
Hi, Kevin Barton from Robert Bray Associates. Your design can be spot on, and we have some experience of in the build, it can be way off. How do you ensure, especially when you have a certain amount of staff with limited skills on the ground, how did you ensure that you were getting the accuracy you need to store certain volumes of water and things like that?
Yeah, and it's a challenge. We obviously know the projects and challenges of it, and getting these people to do it. I think on this project, in terms of the groundworks that were undertaken, they were undertaken by a landscape contractor. So we just did topsoil and planting with the green team. But we are still doing checks. We'll be doing checks through the monitoring. We're hoping to do some kind of potentially, actually, rather than wait for a storm event, we might try and recreate one and do some testing that way. We obviously go out on site and we take cross sections and do all the things that typically you might do in a landscape practice to try and understand if that's it. I'm doing a walk around with Steve next week to kind of go and review things and look against the drawings and what we thought we were achieving and whether we are achieving that. And we might well find some issues that need to address as part of that process. But I think it's a difficulty, and even if we were using purely landscape contractors, we weren't using the green team.
Well, I mean,
still a difficulty.
Historically, landscape contractors aren't used to needing to work to the sort of tolerances that we're asking them to do. So it's quite common amongst landscape contractors working on the same sort of levels of inaccuracy as supervision.
I think supervision, and here we're trying to, when you're trying to do it in a kind of low cost, effective, easy to roll out way, there has got to be a balance, I guess. These things need to work, they need to function as they're supposed to. But if you kind of look, I'm sure you will have, but think 5-10 years along the line, hopefully those skills within landscape contractors, hopefully the skills within the green teams and people we're working with, these things will become more familiar to them. And it's a progress. So I know when I came on the SUDS training here, and Bob was doing the training and talking about it, but I'm sure on any landscape project we're all making mistakes along the line, both as designers, both as as contractors, all these organisations, and it's the process of going through it. It shouldn't stop us doing it. We had the at the GLA event, a gentleman from Philadelphia coming and talking about the work there, and he was really just get out there and try and make it happen, and don't I think he was quite got a sense from the room that maybe we were overthinking everything and we need to kind of go and try and make these things happen. So no, so you are.